Tonight's event is hosted by the Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce in partnership with our Government Relations Committee. It is made possible through funding from the town of Holly Springs through the Governmental Support Program. Over the past several weeks, the Chamber has invited the public to submit questions for tonight's forum. These questions were carefully reviewed and finalized earlier today by members of our Government Relations Committee. As a nonpartisan organization, the Chamber does not endorse any candidate or political party. Our goal is to provide a platform where voters can hear directly from the candidates on the issues that matter most to our residents. We are grateful to both our mayoral candidates for participating in tonight's event. In addition to these forums, the Chamber Government Relations Committee has also prepared a 2025 Voters Guide, which includes responses from all of the council and both mayoral candidates. This guide is available to the public, and you can access it by scanning the QR code on the handout you received upon arrival. Tonight's forum will be moderated by Tim Congleton, a resident of our community who lives in the ETJ. He is not eligible to vote in Holly Springs elections. His role as moderator ensures neutrality and fairness throughout the evening. Candidates, please note that the time will be kept on the iPad at the front of the stage. When your time is up, an alarm will sound. You may finish your sentence, but finish your sentence only, not your thought. A loud buzzer will sound if you go beyond that. Yeah, it's pretty obnoxious. I think Tim was upset that he couldn't push that button last week. Before we begin tonight, just a few important reminders. No outbursts, heckling, or audible responses will be permitted from attendees or candidates. Any violation of this will result in an immediate removal from the auditorium. Tonight's format is as follows. Each candidate will have 3-minute opening statements. Each question that will be drawn will allow for a 90-second response for each candidate. Candidates will alternate who responds first. After both candidates have answered, each may offer a 30-second rebuttal if desired. Rebuttals are limited to 1 per question. We will conclude with a 3-minute closing statement. Questions are drawn at random and may include some from last week's town council forum. This forum is being recorded and will be available on the Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel in the coming days. If you missed last week's forum, we encourage you to watch the recording of the town council candidate forum on our channel. Finally, a special thank you to the town of Holly Springs staff for ensuring the auditorium seating is just as good as it was last week for our important community events. We're ready to begin tonight's forum.
You have 3 minutes for your opening introduction. Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to start again by thanking our hosts at the Chamber. Mayor Majewski, thank you so much for your time. Thank you most of all to everybody who made the time to be with us here tonight, everybody watching online. I'd like to start by just acknowledging my family. My daughters, Morgan and Lydia, are here, and my wife, Mandy. It is our 27th wedding anniversary tomorrow. And I certainly would not have this opportunity if it were not for your unending love and support. So thank you. Love you. Holly Springs is a great place to live, and it's going to continue to grow. But I'm running for mayor because we still have challenges that we need to address. How are we going to grow in ways that prioritize residents' needs? And how can we make sure that all of our residents and businesses benefit from that growth? Now, my family, we've experienced these challenges. Our older daughter, Morgan, we'd love for her to be able to afford to live near us in the next few years. And of course, our 9-year-old Lydia, we're still focused on all the things that Holly Springs has to offer her. My wife and I, we work for and we own small businesses. And of course, we're on the roads with everybody every day too. But I'm also aware that our perspective as a family is just one. Now, I've spent this entire campaign listening to residents. I've had thousands of conversations. Because what I've come to learn over my professional career organizing families and communities, and in the 22 years I've been blessed to be a parent, is that the most compelling form of leadership is listening. That's how people come to understand that you care. And the conversations that I've had, they never focus on, you know, grandiose notions of greatness or growth rates or anything like that. It's always what I can do to help make their tomorrow better. And making their tomorrow better means that we need to continue to focus on their needs first, and we need to create policies that make sure that everyone benefits from that growth. And that's what I hope tonight's forum will focus on. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Mayor Sean Mayevsky. I appreciate you all being here tonight and being involved in your community. I want to thank the Chamber and the Government Relations Department for putting this together. I think I can speak for the residents. We certainly believe that the two-night event is a little bit more beneficial to all of us. I also like to thank Tim Congleton. I believe this is his 55th year of hosting the Chamber's event this evening, so I thank him for that. I don't want to assume anything that, I'm sure many of you have heard my story, but I don't want to assume anything with 66 people a day net moving into Wake County, many of which are moving here. Moved here in the late 90s, married my college sweetheart, 31 years married, 3 kids, all grew up here. They went to every single elementary school, middle school that were coming online, so those who are being changed around, I feel your pain. They graduated from the high school, went on to higher education, a couple of them got master's degrees. I'm happy to say they've all moved back. One of them actually bought them a house here in Holly Springs, so if you know mama's happy, everybody in the household's happy. So we're excited about that. I started a company right after I got here. Grew it over a 20-year period. 3 locations, 2 in North Carolina, 1 in South Carolina. We covered 4 states. You know there's quite a few employees to make that happen. But I got involved as soon as I got here. I got involved coaching Park and Rec. I got involved with 2 other gentlemen. We started a soccer program that's still in existence today, the Triangle Y Soccer Club over at the Kraft YMCA. I got involved in my church, got involved in the Knights of Columbus, served on their board. And then I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce, which helped me to learn and understand the businesses in town. Over a 20-year member in various businesses. And I served on their board, their general board, as well as their executive board, and then finished as their chair. I sold the business in 2019. I took that and reinvested it back into Holly Springs in the industrial park. Developed that piece and turned around and sold that piece again. Now I tell you all that because along the way, as you can imagine, folks are saying, hey, bring your business here, bring your business there. Holly Springs always felt home. It's a place where we raised our kids, and we want to see you raise your children and have your children come back here. Thank you.
Let me test this thing right quick. All right, we're working. Okay, gentlemen, as we've said, you'll each have 90 seconds to respond to this question. And then after both of you have responded, there will be an opportunity, a 30-second opportunity for rebuttal. Our first question, since you introduced first, we'll go to you for the first question. You'll both have the same question. Sean, what do you see as the most critical challenge facing our community today, and how have you engaged with town staff or residents around this issue to make sure you fully understand its complexity?
Well, a couple things there. We have quite a few, one of which would be the obvious one, traffic. 90 seconds to explain that one. That's going to be tough. The other one is a positive one, our Northeast Gateway. Right now, there is the opportunity for our to look and redesign that one. I say that because we have the opportunity to invest with our small businesses. They can come out that way. We've got some work to do to make sure that we've got water and sewer out that direction. So I would say that's probably one of our toughest. And how are we doing it? Well, right now we're engaging with our staff to look at ways that we can do it. Do we do it on our own as a town? Do we spend the money and then recoup that money once we bring in those businesses? Or do we look for a partnership now and try to work on that part of town? That's probably one of the most interesting and fun areas that I think our council is going to have to work on here in the coming years.
Thank you. Mike, let me read the question for you.
Sure.
What do you see as the most critical challenge facing our community today, and how have you engaged with the town staff or residents around this issue to make sure you fully understand its complexity?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think the number one challenge facing our community is clearly traffic and congestion, and how traffic and congestion relate to our pace of development. What I have done to understand this issue as well as I can, as I indicated in my open, is to be able to talk to residents across the town. So I've had thousands of these conversations on front porches over the last 5+ months. And the feedback that I get is that people feel as though development in Holly Springs is happening to them and not necessarily for them. And so I think what we need to be able to do, number one, is change the way that we evaluate development projects. I think we need to be more conscious of the fact that residents' number one priority is the amount of additional traffic that comes from additional development. And that if we are accepting thousands of additional car trips on a road as a result of a project, then they want to understand with clarity what the town is getting in return, and it needs to be substantial. I think they also have questions over how we can better coordinate what we're doing from a traffic standpoint with NCDOT schedule. I also think they want to see more investment from the town in solving our traffic challenges. Thank you.
Sean?
Yeah, sure. So what I'd say is
Hold
that
on just 1 second. Let's get the timer
I'm
right.
getting all the time I can get in. What are you talking about?
We refer to these as technical difficulties. If you'd like, I can sit here and say 1001, 1002.
You can do that if you like.
Ready? Begin, please.
All right. So I sit on CAMPO. CAMPO is the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm the liaison for the town. I go to these meetings and I talk about how we're trying to fight for funding here. And I'm happy to tell you, it's 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
You can just tell me when it's done. So I mean, I fight for the money to come to the town of Holly Springs. I'm happy to tell you that we've got $236 million that are coming to the town of Holly Springs just this year. That's going to help widen roads from Main Street, where Chick-fil-A and Fidelity Bank is, up 55 to Holly Springs Road. That'll be a 6-lane roadway. Happy to tell you that also that we're in the design phase, part of the growth, which council just approved the other night for, that it? Smack the red button, let's go. Thank you.
Mike? Rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Oh, okay. Mike, this next question, you'll begin with it.
Sure.
How do you feel about current transportation options? Are they affordable and accessible to all? And if not, what would you do?
I believe the town needs more transportation options. Now, I know that we've started down that road with microtransit, or our first form of public transportation. I was hopeful that we would have been able to have started that project years ago. But the town, particularly as it grows, and particularly as the downtown district grows, I would hope that the town I hope we're able to more effectively plan for additional public transportation investment in an effort to not only provide a more affordable option, but also to get cars off of the roads to be able to help address our traffic and congestion problems.
Sean, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good on that one. Thank you. So here's what I did. About a year and a half ago, called a friend of mine, Marianne Baldwin, mayor of Raleigh at the time. I said, Marianne, I want to come down and meet with you. I want to talk about microtransit, how you all do it, how it looks, and how it works. She said, yeah, sure, Sean, no problem. So I got her town manager. We took the 305 bus, went down, that nobody rides, went downtown. I think about the fifth stop in Carriage when some folks got on. Sat down with Marianne, had great conversation, kind of outlining what we were doing, what we need to do, whole 9 yards. Randy took a bunch of notes. Realized that there's no way to get back from downtown till 3 o'clock. Had to call my wife, come pick us up. We got back here and had some conversations. This past February, from that meeting, the information that we derived and got together from Marianne Baldwin was implemented and brought together to our retreat. Council took that information, tweaked it their way, and now what we have is what was just approved the other night for council called the Holly Springs Hopper. That's how coordination happens. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. It's when you're working with somebody else to get for the betterment of the community, that's when we all win.
Mike, would you like to do a rebuttal?
Yeah, I mean, look, the only thing I would add on microtransit and public transit in general, based on the town's growth, over the last 4 years, we've spent about $245 million in general fund money. Yeah, I think the town now, I think we've spent about after this budget, roughly a little over 200K in microtransit. So, again, my focus is on. Are we're done?
That was a
Is that
that was 30.
do I get to,
Yes. The rebuttal is 30 seconds.
do I get to finish that sentence or do?
Yeah. Oh, finish your sentence.
Oh.
Yes.
Right. So being able to try to anticipate future growth by making that investment earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Rebuttal.
No, sir.
Then you have the next question. And there's a theme apparently to a lot of the questions tonight, gentlemen. Just going to tell you so far. And this one is many people say that road improvements have not kept up with growth. How can you ensure Holly Springs will keep up with that demand?
Well, council's got a tough job, right? So it all starts at LUAC. LUAC is our Land Use Advisory Committee. Folks have, anyone who comes in and says, hey, this is what I want to do, they come into Land Use Advisory Committee. Most of the time, it doesn't ever make out of it because the folks that are there, which are all the directors, several of the planning board, and council that comes in, and basically tell them it's either a good idea or a bad idea. Don't bring it, it's not going to work. Our job then is to get with the developers, and I know we got several of them in here this evening, is to be able to push as much and get as much out of them as we can, just like they're going to try to push and get as much as out of the town as they can so they can make as much money as they can. I get the whole idea. But there's other things besides that. There's our park and rec department. There's our greenways. Those are things that are also contributed to by our developers so we continue to grow. Example would be, I'm out in Holly Glen, been there since the beginning. We were in the country. I can now get on a bike, get out on Avent Ferry, go down Morgan Creek, go under 55, come up at the Cultural Arts Center, and I can go anywhere I want. I can ride up into Apex now. That's part of what we're trying to do when you're when you receive the development stuff. So we are continuing to push. We'll push the developers much like they push us. We're good.
Mike, many people say that road improvements have not kept up with growth. How can you ensure Holly Springs will keep up with that demand?
Yeah, we need to take an all of the above approach to how we manage traffic and how we manage congestion. So in part, that's got to be investing more of the town's budget in traffic and transportation. That needs working with our regional partners, our partners in Apex and Fuquay, who generally are ahead of us when it comes to public transportation and coordination to get cars off of the roads. And all of that needs to come together to be able to have that all of the above strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind asking a question one more time.
Many people say that road improvements have not kept up with growth. How can you ensure Holly Springs will keep up with that demand?
Yeah, I don't know of any place in any municipality where the DOT has come in and said, hey, we're going to build a big road for you without any development. Just not going to happen. You got to have the development that's there, that's coming, and then the DOT will come behind. That's why I fight for it when I'm on Campo. That's why our own staff gets in there and fights and sends in requests for road money for this particular town. Campo goes in and grades it and rates it, and that's how we get our money. But there'll never be a time that we get money for an improvement of a road without the development.
Mike, rebuttal?
Yeah, I mean, look, what I would point out is I think having a developer-driven transportation plan is exactly what creates the challenges that we have today. Now, I don't argue that developers need to be a part of that equation, but again, I think for us it needs to be a combination of what we're doing with our budget, a combination of what we're doing to take cars off roads, a combination then also too of what we can look in terms of being able to borrow money in future bond issues to help us get to where we need to go.
All right. Next question will begin with Mike.
Sure.
How do you feel about partisan politics being a part of local elections, and how will you work on issues with council members that do not share your position on issues that may be partisan in nature?
Yeah, I don't think any of the issues that we're going to talk about here tonight, certainly not traffic congestion or development, are tied to a political party or one part of the political spectrum. I think that's what makes municipal politics in general unique, and generally I think more fun to engage on. And in terms of working with people who may be on a different part of the political spectrum than I am, I think people ought to expect, the voters ought to expect, the people they elect to disagree on issues. And they should also expect that disagreement to be worked out to the greatest degree possible in public. That to me is the government for the people aspect. So look, I think our meetings should have, generally should have much more conversation, much more back and forth, so people can see exactly how the various council members and the mayor are putting ideas together and coming out to a final solution that ultimately is the best for the residents of Holly Springs.
Sean, how do you feel about partisan politics being a part of local elections, and how will you work on issues with the council members that do not share your position on issues that may be partisan in nature?
I can tell you there is nothing to do with the upper level politics at this level. You know what I get calls about? There's a dead deer in the road. When can you get it out? I got parking issues. When can you help me get these parking issues? I need more of them. So there's really at this level not big partisan politics. Do we make it as a neighborhood? Sure, we all do, right? It's just what it is. Now, as far as working with other ones, I can tell you there's 4 times I've voted, and I got to give old Dick Sears when I first come on. He said, Sean, I've only voted 4 times to break a tie in the 20 years. Don't worry about it. First year and a half, I had to vote 4 times. I got to tell you, 2 times I voted with Dan Barry. 2 times I voted with Aaron Wolf. Both sides, but you guys know what side of the fence they are. It's for the betterment of the town that you vote. If it works for the entire community, that's what you vote on, and that's what you're working on. So at this level, to answer the question, there really is no partisan politics here. You're dealing with stuff that's at the lower level, like parking, dead deer. Hey, there's a truck in the road. There's an accident. Can you get somebody to come out and help? That's what we deal with on the phone call basis.
Mike, rebuttal?
Yeah, no rebuttal.
Okay. Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, that was easy. Okay, let's see this one. How do you plan to ensure small businesses have the opportunity to build and expand in Holly Springs? Yes.
Actually, we're doing that right now. Everybody's heard of all the big wins we've had in the business park. One of the other things that it does is you look out at Oakview Commons. It probably wouldn't have happened if we didn't have those folks. I'll tell you the first thing that happened. Fujifilm, when they came in, giving them some props. They had trailers that they were working out of. They went and found a local coffee company, brought them into the trailer. They distributed coffee to all the folks that worked there. They took that same company, and they now have that company on site serving the employees and the workers that are in town. So that's one of the benefits that we're providing to the small businesses. One of the things we're also doing is you see all the construction around town, we want to see those small businesses come in here. I'm a small business owner myself. The town of Holly Springs is an entrepreneurial certified town. You don't get that unless you show and prove that you're supportive of small businesses. As you can imagine, all those big businesses need support staff. They need companies to come in and help them. The mom and pop shops, the coffee shops is the example that I gave. One thing I do say that we do need to have a better job of. Right now, all of our sites are 100% filled. I don't know how many other municipalities can say that, but one of the things we need are plumbers, HVAC, and electricians, places for them to go. What you would put them in would be flex space. We lack flex space. If you're out there and you're a realtor, you know what I'm talking about. That's one of the things that I think that we as a economic development group need to look at.
Mike, how do you plan to ensure small businesses have the opportunity to build and expand in Holly Springs?
Sure, yeah. I think a few main things on this. The piece of feedback that I get most often from small business owners is the cost of establishing a business here in Holly Springs. And I also think as over the next few years, the economic environment that we're entering into promises with higher tariffs to lead to higher costs. And I think we can look just at this next year coming up at the rate of increase in the cost of health insurance. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as leaders of municipal government to look at the economic environment that our small businesses are operating in and have a serious conversation about investments that we can make at the town level to help address the challenges that we know small businesses are going to be facing. And so what I've talked about is a couple of things. One, expanding the downtown development grant program so that businesses from across Holly Springs can apply for that money to help with startup costs. For the town to be able to provide access to small businesses, particularly legal and financial expertise, be able to set up purchasing co-ops, particularly be able to buy down the cost of health insurance. So those are two important things. I'd also like to see the town fund an internship program so that small businesses can get access to talent from Holly Springs high schools as well as Wake Tech without having to pay for it. So I'd like to start with those three things. And I think in addition to that, hopefully we can talk more about this later, having affordable housing in the town of Holly Springs that people who work in small businesses can afford to live in.
Sean, rebuttal?
Yeah, if you don't mind asking the question one more time.
How do you plan to ensure small businesses have the opportunity to build and expand in Holly Springs?
One of the things we've got is a brand new small business coordinator. Many of you in here I've introduced him to. Neil Duncan. So the idea is for him to get out and about in the community, to take care of issues that you may have, to be able to be the first liaison to get as you want to grow, be able to provide the opportunity to get in touch with some of the directors that we have, to be your first resource. If you take a look at our website, some of you I sent the website to take a look at. We have a plethora of information that you can find on our website, the town's website.
I lost track. Oh,
Mike's 30.
Mike, would you like to rebut?
No rebuttal.
Okay. So now, Mike, you'll get the question first. This is a little more complicated, trust me. The creative arts are essential drivers of economic vitality, social connection, and quality of life. Do you support town investments in the arts sector, and how would you work to support and enhance the arts as part of your economic development policies?
Great question. So the short answer, yes, I do support additional investment and focus on the arts. And I think there are a few things that we should focus on. First and foremost, I'd like to make sure that we work to get Holly Springs on the next Wake County Library bond. We need a bigger, more functional library that has more programming. So I would like to see us push for that investment up front. I would like to see us develop a specific grant program for the arts that various organizations or artists who are going to invest in putting public art installations or art programming can access that funding. And I'd also like to think big. I'd like to work with our county partners and our regional partners to see if Holly Springs can become home to a regional performing arts center so that Holly Springs becomes much like DPAC is today for Wake County. So I'd like to work and figure out how we can make those investments.
Sean, the creative arts are essential drivers of economic vitality, social connection, and quality of life. Do you support town investments in the arts sector? And how would you work to support and enhance the arts as part of your economic development policies?
My wife and I one night were sitting over at OSHA, sitting outside, and I'm looking down at the old Napa police station building. And I thought, man, what a cool place to put a mural of some type. I can't draw stick men, but I know there's some people out here who can certainly do some nice artwork. So I reached out before the next council meeting, and we've got a couple of council members here tonight, reached out to them, said, hey, here's an idea. You guys okay with this if I present this? So I presented at the council meeting that I'd love to see our arts council some way paint a mural. I mean, we've got the Sesquicentennial coming up next year, 150 years that Holly Springs been incorporated. Could we not put that on the side of that building? So to answer your question, 100% I'm behind it, but the arts encompasses much more than just drawing. You're talking about dance, you're talking about music. I believe this place stays busy all the time with some of the music we got going on, and to be able to offer that to the residents, 100%, yes, love to see more of it.
Mike, rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Just making sure. So, Sean, as someone with equal power as other council members, how would you approach decision making and foster collaboration?
Well, I do that kind of already. Before any council meeting, I reach out to every one of our council members. I don't want to see any aha moments to any of our staff. The idea is to be able to get into the meeting, know which side of the fence everybody's on. If they need questions, we get those questions answered before. Some folks send emails in and get their answers back that's submitted back to all council. But the idea is that when we get to the meeting, we're working on business. We're not going to be asking questions or trying to confuse staff when we get there. That's not the object of this. So collaboration happens before every council meeting to find out what's necessary and what's needed. If there's a tough decision, what's the betterment of the entire community is the question that gets asked. What's better than what works for all? So those are the questions that are asked. I think that's pretty much what we do at every council meeting.
Mike, as someone with equal power as other council members, how would you approach decision making and foster collaboration?
Yeah, as I started off in my open, the most compelling form of leadership is listening, and so that's where I would start with this process. Again, I believe Holly Springs is electing leaders to disagree, to come with their points of view, aggressively advocate for those points of view, and I would view my role as being able to help work through all of that feedback to help come to the best answer for Holly Springs. And beyond that, to echo the consistency aspect of not only what we're doing in meetings, but outside of meetings, however frequently we need to be talking and working on these issues is what it's going to require for us to come to the best conclusion. So to me, it's that consistency of conversation, it's the willingness to listen, and ultimately work through all that feedback to come to the best solution.
Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Mike, rebuttal? Okay. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I have to make a joke. I keep wanting to say B17. I feel like I'm at a bingo. So, Mike, what areas of improvement do you think the town should focus on?
So a few things. I think as we have already talked about in depth tonight, I think the biggest area of improvement for us is how we're managing traffic and congestion, and we're balancing that with development. I think that's, again, far and away people's biggest issue. It's frankly hard for me to get people to talk about anything but that issue at the doors. I think another important issue for us is as we expand our water supply and we work with Sanford, given the state and federal regulations on PFAS concentrations in water being delayed. I think making sure that we're being very careful and being very consistent in our approach, being vigilant about how PFAS filters are being installed and maintained, how we're monitoring the quality of our water and the transparency of those water reports is extremely important. The last thing I would say, I think the town needs to be much more proactive, and our elected leaders need to be much more proactive in being out in every part of this community all the time, getting residents' feedback on issues so that we always know where residents stand on important issues before we have conversations and certainly before council meetings.
Sean, what areas of improvement do you think the town should focus on?
Listen, the town does the same thing it's been doing for 20, 30 years. Their bidding process. It's ridiculous. 3 bids, low bid wins. If you don't get 3 bids, you send the bids back. We don't look at them. What happens? You send the bids back. The people that are doing the work look at it and go, it must be either harder than we thought. We got to put extra money on it. Private sector does it cheaper. They do it faster. I'm not going to say they do it better because the town does a lot of good stuff and so do the GCs that do work here. But we can't keep doing the same way, same thing the same way. Here's an example. So I'll give Aaron Prey props. I sent her a request through work with our town attorney. How can we get this big overreaching into a bill that we could save us money? Because it's your money that we're spending. It's your money we're spending. How do we save that money? So it became a bill. It was it was drawn down. Of course it would be because it's a big ask. But it was Bill 352. And what that's done is that bill is anything over $10 million can be done with 2 bids. Now, how does that help? Well, one, it doesn't go back, doesn't increase the cost of it, and then we're able to get anything over $10 million, we're able to look at those bids that's to the benefit of the town. So we got to be able to do stuff more like the private sector, which does it faster, does it cheaper, because it's your money that we're spending. That's the biggest thing I've seen that we could improve.
Mike, rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
All right. Sean, are you for or against the proposed 250 megawatt data center being located in our area?
First, there's not enough information out there to make an informed decision. We don't know enough about what's going on. Yes, there's one that has been talked about going up there. I've seen the same things. People send me the emails about it. But let's see what actually is going up there before we actually say yes or no to it. It hasn't even been proposed, hasn't even been brought. I reached out to Mayor Gilbert, asked him about it. He said it hasn't been brought to our council. It hasn't even been brought to the planning board. So the short answer is let's see more information about it before we can make any decision about it.
Okay. Mike? Are you for or against the proposed 250 megawatt data center being located in our area?
So I would certainly echo the sentiment that we need additional information. I would say the one thing I would add, I mean, based on the information that we have today, I think it's difficult for me to support given the environmental impacts where it's being located near Harris Lake. I think for people in Holly Springs, this data center has potential we have to deal with the negative effects on the environment and have basically no additional benefit to our tax base or benefit to the town. So from that standpoint, I think based on what we know today, it would be a difficult project to support. But to Sean's point, I mean, additional information is necessary before we make a final decision.
Okay. Sean, okay. Mike, rebuttal? Mike, Mike, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Do you think that the town should be pushing tourism in our community?
I think given our location in Wake County, given the natural environment that is around us, and the way that the town has developed, yes, I think tourism is a good opportunity for us to be able to continue to build and grow our economic development portfolio, for sure.
Sean, do you think that the town should be pushing tourism in our community?
Absolutely. Anytime you get to show off the town of Holly Springs, it's good for everybody. We already do so with lacrosse tournaments, soccer tournaments, baseball tournaments that we've got. We've got some of the nicest facilities in Wake County, so there should be no reason why we shouldn't put that out. We've received through the tourism grant funds that go to the new Eagles Landing Park. And those funds are coming because of what we're getting ready to produce. They're going to be able to have those soccer fields incorporated in there. So the people that come here love it. I've been out to those tournaments just to talk to people that come from all across the country, and they're impressed by it. Matter of fact, we just had the first ever women's softball league played here. 600,000 people watched the town of Holly Springs on ESPN. So the answer to that, absolutely. Anytime we get to shine and show Holly Springs, let's do it.
Mike, rebuttal?
Nope.
Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Mike, do you believe that the current committee selection process is fair and balanced? And if not, what changes would you suggest? Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I did get my error messed up.
Okay.
I apologize. Sorry, Sean. Let me repeat myself. Do you believe the current committee selection process is fair and balanced? If not, what changes would you suggest?
Well, I haven't seen too many problems. The council members get together. They're able to talk, decide who works best and who they think's best. Um, the folks that put their names in the hat are wanting to serve their community. Council has an opportunity to select who they think is best and how it's working is best. I can tell you that what we do here in Holly Springs is you've got 5 council members who vote for these folks. In Apex, they do a little different. The mayor does the voting for the Board of Adjustments. So I think the 5 of our council members picking and choosing who belongs on or who wants to be a part of it is a fair and balanced way to pick the folks to be on these committees.
Mike, do you believe the current committee selection process is fair and balanced? If not, what changes would you suggest?
So, look, to me, the town boards and commissions need the people serving on them need to look like the community. I think we need broader representation from more and different communities within Holly Springs on those town boards, and I think part of the challenge in getting that is doing consistent outreach, getting people engaged in their communities, making sure they know what the issues are, making sure they know what's going on, so that more people are willing to apply for those roles, and I think bring a broader and more balanced set of viewpoints to our boards and commissions.
Mike, rebuttal? He waved.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Mike, what is the end picture? What I think this should say, what does the end picture look like for Holly Springs in terms of development, diversity, and inclusion?
I not exactly sure how to interpret the end part, but from a development diversity and inclusion standpoint, I think we've made progress in these areas. I love what we've been doing in terms of the Parks and Rec department, making different toys available for neurodivergent kids, the signage that we've been putting on our parks to help kids with disabilities more effectively use our equipment. I think the big thing that we need to be able to do to promote diversity and inclusion in Holly Springs is to be able to pass the NDO. I think a lot of the assumptions that the town made in not supporting the NDO 3 years ago have not borne out in terms of how it has been applied in the 10 of Wake County's 13 incorporated towns that are currently implementing it. And I think it's time, based upon the results of that implementation, for the town to revisit that decision.
Sean, what does the end picture look like for Holly Springs in terms of development, diversity, and inclusion?
I'm the current president of the Wake County Mayors Association. I set up the meetings, we get together. I can tell you right now, we are the envy of Wake County. We're the second lowest taxed municipality in the county. We will be the lowest taxed municipality next year. We provide, I'm trying to think of how to best to explain this. There are other municipalities that are in there in the discussions that wish they could do. Their questions are, how do we get in to do what the town of Holly Springs has done? It didn't happen overnight. This is a 25-year process that we had set in the business park to bring these people. When you bring in the Fujis, the Genentechs, the Amgens of the world, that's when our small businesses begin to grow. So the answer to it is, what does it look like? It looks like a great, fantastic town. We'll continue to do the same things and grow to bring the great businesses, small businesses, and the residents of the town who want to start a business here in town. That's what it'll look like.
Mike, rebuttal?
No.
Sean, rebuttal?
Nope.
Sean? What is the role of municipal government in supporting affordable housing to ensure teachers, first responders, and other essential workers can afford to be a part of the community they serve?
Well, truthfully, our role is limited. We've got water that we can handle and utilities that we can handle. Those are the two big things that we can assist and help. What we can do, though, is work with our developers. We've got the DHIC project that's coming right behind Ting Park. It's 146 units that are going to be in there. Wake County owns the property. The idea is that town will buy that property. We will then turn it over to the developer who's coming currently. The developer is going to create the infrastructure and the roadways for those units that are going to be built back there. There's a couple of things that come to mind. Apex did a study of their EMS, fire, and police. Study asked, do you want to live in the town that you work in? The answer was 65% said, we do not want to live in the town that we work in. We do not want to see the folks that we pulled over the night before in the grocery store when we go shopping. We do not want to see the families that we put out the fire for. We want to live in the country. That's where we'd like to be. So it's an interesting study that Apex did. It's easy to look up and find out. But as far as what the town can do, water, work with the developers, see if we can put in some of the infrastructure. The biggest piece of the puzzle are the folks that own the land who are selling the land at the price that they want to get. Very tough for us to get involved in that piece.
Mike, what is the role of municipal government in supporting affordable housing to ensure teachers, first responders, and other essential workers can afford to be a part of the community they serve?
Yeah, I think it's an extremely important part of what the town is responsible for. I think if you look at just Holly Springs documents in the comprehensive plan, in the strategy statement, in the downtown development plan, all of these documents reference affordable or workforce housing. I mean, the town is saying to everyone in multiple ways through multiple channels that affordable housing is important to this community. I think for exactly this point. whether it's our kids, our seniors. I believe the affordable housing study that the town paid for just a couple of years ago noted that I think 50% of Holly Springs senior renters are cost burdened. So clearly there are affordability challenges that the town can step in and help to solve. Now, I mean, I think one additional way that we can do that, I certainly agree with working with developers, but we need to come to developers with something. So look, I mean, we are now blessed with several large employers. I'd love to see us work with them to be able to create an investment fund that's professionally managed, that attracts more capital, that attracts additional returns, all of which could be used to go to developers to be able to finance additional affordable housing units. Like I think the solutions to this problem are pretty well established if we're willing to engage with them. Thank you.
Sean?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that the 23 census show that 83% of the homeowners in Holly Springs own their homes, with about 16% that were renting either a home or an apartment. One of the things we were lacking at that time were apartments. Since that time, of 5,000 units that have been added, 2,000 are rental properties. That's an increase of 40%. So we provided, over the last 3 years, opportunity for those who wanted to live in an affordable, don't want to spend the money on a home, affordable apartment.
Wait a minute, I lost track of myself. Mike, rebuttal?
Yeah, there are more rental units, except the rent on those units continues for a lot of people to be unaffordable. So again, whether you're paying a mortgage or whether you're paying rent, I think is immaterial. I think our focus is how we can drop the costs of all of these various types of housing units through a more creative approach than the town has taken to this point.
Okay, Mike, you get this question first. Do you believe the current property tax rate in Holly Springs is too high, too low, or about right, and why?
I think the current property tax rate is about right. I do think we get good value for the money that we invest. I do think our challenges are, as we compare ourselves to other towns, is kind of the apples and oranges, right? What are we getting for the money that we are investing? And are there better ways for us to invest that money? So I mean, even comparing us to our near neighbor in Apex. So they have a higher tax rate, but they also have a much bigger public transit system. They also have a much bigger and more broad and diverse approach to affordable housing. So how are we balancing our tax rate with the various services and options that are available to our citizens? But I believe now the tax rate that we have, based on what we receive, is well balanced.
Sean, do you believe the current property tax rate in Holly Springs is too high, too low, or about right, and why?
Certainly love to see it lower, but I can tell you that the council over the years that I've been on have put the screws to the town managers, to staff, to do what they can to reduce the cost where they can. Over the 4 years, there's been a quarter-cent tax increase. Again, we're the second lowest tax municipality in Wake County, and we will be the lowest next year. Things to do better, I can tell you there's not a thing that you all haven't paid that hasn't gone up. Not a thing. And we've done our best to maintain and keep our prices and our costs to you at the best they can. Is it easy? Nope. I can tell you it's not easy. They come and want an increase. Council says, nope, we want a decrease. So somewhere in the middle we've met. We've received from Moody's a AAA rating. And what that does is it gives the town the best, when we want to borrow money, the best rating at the lowest interest rates you can. We're a fiscally sound municipality, and you can't get any better than AAA Moody rating.
Mike, rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
left. We can be here till midnight. So, Sean, how important is it for senior town leaders, such as the town manager, police chief, and other senior leaders, to have daily lived experience in the same community where they make decisions?
Say that one more time.
That's a good idea. How often, how important is it for senior town leaders, such as the town manager, police chief, and other senior leaders, to have daily lived experience in the same community where they make decisions?
Well, I can tell you that I know the police chief, fire chief, and the town manager all live in the town. So they're well aware of what's going on in the town. I know they get together quite often to discuss many of the things that are going on. I'm not really sure where the question's going. Is it a big deal that they live here? Absolutely, it's a big deal that they live here. They, in their meetings, they discuss, things that they've seen, pieces of things where we can improve. I got to be honest, I don't know what the question's truly asking. So, but is it important they live here? Sure, it's important they live here.
Mike, how important is it for senior town leaders, such as the town manager, police chief, and other senior leaders, to have daily lived experience in the same community where they make decisions?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's awfully difficult to make decisions, certainly at the level that all of those senior leaders need to be making them, without understanding the experience of the people on whose behalf you are making those decisions, so that those folks live in the community and can understand firsthand what the problems and challenges are that need to be addressed. I think is extremely important.
Okay, Sean, no rebuttal. Mike, any rebuttal? Okay. Mike, how would you evaluate whether a proposed commercial or housing project is worth approval?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. You hadn't started it yet, have
Oh,
you?
no.
Okay. How would you evaluate whether a proposed commercial or housing project is worth approving?
Yeah, I think the basis of that analysis has to be, is it contributing to balanced growth for Holly Springs? So again, coming back to Holly Springs residents' number one issue being the amount of additional traffic that is coming from that development. And of course, what is the town getting to balance that out? Is there a significant piece of additional infrastructure that is coming along with that particular project? What's its impact going to be, obviously, on our economy? Are there other aspects of that project, like, for instance, in a residential project, are we working to be able to add more affordable housing units? So to me, we've got to be able to look at all those things, like also greenways, side paths, all of those things that are going to help better connect alternative routes of travel. So how does all of that fit together in that developer's proposal, and coming to a solution based upon a balanced analysis of all of those factors?
Sean, how would you evaluate whether a proposed commercial or housing project is worth approving?
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, LUAC is where most of it starts. We listen to what they're going to propose, what they're going to bring to us, and we tell them whether it's a good idea or when it's not going to float. Before it gets to council, it goes through several layers. LUAC, it may go to the directors of development services, where they sit and they talk and decide whether they can tweak something. It may get to planning board, and it may be done at the planning board. It may not even meet council. So the idea is that if it's good for the, as I mentioned at the beginning, is if it's good for the entire community, it's something that we need to entertain, and was something that we need to look at.
Mike, rebuttal?
No, Roto.
Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Okay, Sean. I'm going to do something illegal. We went over that question with the town council. Let's try this one. How much of the town's annual budget should be allocated to parks and recreation, and do you believe current funding levels are appropriate?
Well, yeah, the current funding level is certainly appropriate for what we've got. Matter of fact, when I got in, the first thing I looked at was the park and rec fees to see if we were charging what we needed to be charging. The park and rec fees at the time when I got in, the town was paying almost 75% of the fee. Now, I get it. It's an option to have your child or kids play these sports, but we got to look at it from a reasonable level. Do all residents need to be paying for 75% of it? So that was the first thing I did when we got in there. It changed. We increased some of the prices. The overall budget, we're seeing that the Eagles Landing's coming around the corner. It's going to be a wonderful park that we've got out there with something we don't even have in town right now, which is a full court indoor basketball. I've been here 26 years, and we can't even offer basketball in this town or volleyball because we don't have the means to do it. So we're going to be able to do it with Eagles Landing. We're going to add 2 more soccer fields to it, all-wheel skate park. So the funding that we've got right now, I think fits for what we've got coming.
Mike, how much of the town's annual budget should be allocated to parks and recreation, and do you believe current funding levels are appropriate?
So I would generally agree that current funding levels are appropriate, but again, I think we need to be able to analyze the various programs that Parks and Rec offers in the broader context of what our community's needs are. So specifically, I'm thinking about programs like our before and after school care programs. Again, particularly as we know costs are rising for households, including every household in Holly Springs. So an important service like that, I think we ought to be able to look at what additional are we willing to be able to invest to expand the program. Like I think one of the big limiters on that program is just being able to have more vehicles available to be able to serve more families. So I'd like to be able to look at simple things like that we can do, or smaller investments to be able to increase the size of programs that mean a lot to families. And even in the case of a program like that, being able to figure out a way to reduce the cost for families.
Sean, rebuttal? Mike, rebuttal? Mike, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process?
Yeah, so I think a couple of important things. First, I've talked since the beginning of the campaign about, I think, our need to have a town department that is dedicated to community outreach. I'd like to have people out having conversations with residents in every community, in every corner of Holly Springs, all the time. I don't think once every 4 years, when we go out and have conversations with people on their porches, is enough. We ought to be governing like we campaign. So I want to make sure that the town is dedicated to that process. I don't think any of our leaders should ever wonder what residents are thinking about a particular project, particularly the bigger ones that we know are going to create more questions. So I'd like to be far more proactive on this issue.
Sean, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process?
Well, actually, we've already started that. After 2 years in, I started what was called the Mayor's Quarterly Chat. There's an opportunity for folks, if they so choose, to come actually right here to the Cultural Arts Center, to hear from our different departments, hear from the DOT, hear from many of our leaders, to come out and talk and listen, hear what they're talking about, and then have them give feedback to the department heads or to the DOT, which I know several of you in here did, about what you'd like to see. So it's already begun. We'll get back to it, doing a quarterly mayor chats.
Mike, rebuttal?
Yeah, kind of echoing like much of the conversation that we just had about, how leaders ought to be interacting in the conversations and so forth, and making sure that those things are happening on a consistent basis. The conversation with residents, I believe, needs to be just as consistent. It needs to be an all-the-time activity.
Sean, rebuttal? Sean, there have been a lot of projects approved that we have not seen the traffic impacts of yet. Do you think we should slow down on approving projects until things have been built and we see the impacts?
I guess that's kind of another way to answer or ask the same question we asked earlier. But the idea is there's a traffic analysis done for every single project. And that traffic analysis is done between our departments and the DOT based on the information that we've got on each of those projects. I'd tell you to go back about 20 years, 15 years ago. Look what happened in Cary. Cary slowed it down. Cary actually shut it down. If you were a builder, you had to wait in line to get a permit. You were on a lottery system. What happened to Cary? They started moving to Holly Springs. They started moving to Apex. They started moving to Fuquay. So what happened to Cary? Cary lost all those people moving there, but guess what we did? We continued to use those roads. So you got to be careful when you say we're going to slow down development because they'll find other means to use. Here's a quick example. Survey was done on Highway 55. Over 65% of the cars that are on Highway 55 are not even Holly Springs residents. So if you shut down development, be ready for them to go down further to Fuquay, Lillington, other parts of Johnson County, and still use our roadways.
Mike, there have been a lot of projects approved that have not seen the traffic impacts of yet. Do you think we should slow down on approving projects until things have been built and we see the impacts of those projects?
Yeah, look, the reality is today we have, I think, several thousand additional residential units in the pipeline. I think we have upwards of, I think, roughly a 500,000 square feet of commercial space that's about to come online. Those projects are going to be built regardless of who you elect mayor, regardless of who you elect to the council. I think people have valid concerns that all of that development is happening on a transportation network that requires, based on the town's analysis, about $800 million worth of investment. So I think people have good questions about, number one, just that feeling of, goodness, it seems like development's happening to us rather than for us, and questioning the town's development priorities and our forward-looking investments to be able to take cars off the road and improve our infrastructure, as we discussed earlier in the debate. Thanks.
Sean, rebuttal? Mike, rebuttal? Mike, if you could change one thing in our Unified Development Ordinance, what would it be and why?
Yeah, if I could change one thing in the UDO, I would like to talk through the process of adding affordable housing incentive zoning to be able to encourage developers to make the investment in adding affordable housing units to residential developments as we move forward.
Sean, if you could change one thing in our Unified Development Ordinance, what would it be and why?
Well, UDO is a ever-evolving live document. It gets edited and looked at every couple of years. If we were to look at it now, I would say, and I'd mentioned it earlier, the Northeast Gateway. That'd be an area where I'd take a look at the UDO, see where it works, where it doesn't work, and what is that we can change for the betterment of Holly Springs and that part of town. It's coming. Let's address it and let's look at it and let's make it something that's certainly special. The early estimates when we discussed these things, they talked about potentially being the next North Hills. I don't know if it'll be quite that big, but that's an opportunity of the biggest interchange on the 540 expressway for folks to stop by in Holly Springs. So that area for the UDO is where I would look at.
Mike, rebuttal? Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Sean, what does the phrase everyone is welcome here mean to you, and how does it relate to your vision for Holly Springs?
Well, I'd say for somebody that's been here 26 years, seen it grow from 6,000 people to 53,000 people, I say the town of Holly Springs has a lot of stuff that folks want. Mentioned 66 people a day move into Wake County, net. A bunch of them are moving to Holly Springs. We've had success with our business park. The large companies moving here. They must see the quality of life is good, and they want their employees to come here. So I'd say just the pure growth that we've had, the success we've had with these large major companies, for them wanting to bring their employees here, we've got the quality of life that they want.
Mike, what does the phrase everyone is welcome here mean to you, and how does it relate to your vision for Holly Springs?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of the issues that we've already talked about. I think an important part of being able to be a welcoming place for everybody is making sure that more people can afford to live here. And I think the second part of that is, I think if we pass policies, I took the liberty of writing down our vibrant community part of our strategy statement, which is to cultivate a creative and friendly environment that is welcoming to all cultures and the diversity of our residents and visitors. So, look, I think, again, if we're going to live out the meaning of what we write down on paper, then I think the other component of that is being able to pass an NDO that shows more meaning behind those words, more action. Thank you.
Mike, rebuttal? He did not rebut. Okay. Okay, Mike, we'll begin with you. How do you view the balance between keeping taxes low and investing in infrastructure, public safety, and quality of life? And would you be more inclined to increase taxes or cut services if budget deficits presented themselves?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Tim?
Sure.
It's a long one.
How do you view the balance between keeping taxes low and investing in infrastructure, public safety, and quality of life? And would you be more inclined to increase taxes or cut services if budget deficits presented themselves?
Yeah, so I think this gets back to the conversations that need to be happening between elected leaders all the time. I think in the case of where we have budget deficits, to me, I don't think we need to be categorizing, hey, I would choose this solution or I would choose that solution. I think it depends upon the specific types of services that the community needs at the point in which we're having the conversation. So again, like to my point on the Parks and Rec question earlier, I don't like to look at the entire budget and say, yes, it's appropriate, or no, it's not appropriate. There are specific services and programs within those budgets that are going to mean more to our residents at those specific times. And so I think you're electing people who are willing to work together and look critically at all of those various line items. And in the case of a budget deficit, line item by line item, if need be, to figure out what the most appropriate solution is for the community at that point.
Sean, how do you view the balance between keeping taxes low and investing in infrastructure, public safety, and quality of life? And would you be more inclined to increase taxes or cut services if budget deficits presented themselves?
Well, neither increase taxes or cut services. With the growth in our residential and the growth in our commercial area, our tax dollars are going to increase. We're taking that money and going to put that back into our safety. We're going to put that into our park and recs. We're going to put that into our utilities, infrastructure, our waste. Those funds that are coming in would help keep our taxes low where we don't have to come and do an increase. That's been our job for the last 20 years. Bring in the commercial, which helps keep us funding coming in so that we can keep our taxes low, and then it'll help fund all the utilities and services and quality of life like the parks and rec that we continue to grow. Our greenways and parkways, we just blew out the Middle Creek Greenway, had that ribbon cut in this year. Those things are going to continue to come with the growth of our residential and our commercial. So no tax increase, better quality of services, no cuts to our services.
Mike, rebuttal?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, again, we have $800 million worth of a transportation need. We're going to need another $500 million worth of investment in our utilities and beyond that. Okay, so we're talking about just in those two areas, $1.3 billion worth of investment that needs to be made. So I don't think it's as simple as saying, hey, we have a few big businesses coming in, the revenue's going to come in, everything is going to be easy. I think you're electing leaders to anticipate the needs of this town and thinking critically about how those needs are going to be addressed.
I was just that close. Darn. Okay, Sean. Rebuttal?
Yeah, sure. I just got to remind everybody that you're seeing right now on 55, the third lane right there at the Walmart that's coming in. That's a 2018 tax program for highways. It takes way too long. I mentioned the $236 million that we've got. It's a start. Is it the answer to everything? Nope, but it's a start. But a transportation bond, as I mentioned earlier, is slow on the public side. We're 7 years in right now, and you're just seeing the roadway being done now.
Sean, what specific steps would you take to evaluate the return of investment on Parks and Rec spending? For example, measuring community usage, health benefits, or tourism impact?
Say that one more time, please.
Sure will. What specific steps would you take to evaluate the return on investment of Parks and Recreation spending? For example, measuring community usage, health benefits, or tourism impact?
Well, I think we can see in our Parks and Rec, every one of the programs that we offer are packed. They're full. There's waiting. So what we're providing certainly is working. As far as the tourism, could we grow on it? Absolutely. We've continued. We've one of the best parks, Ting Park, in the county. People love to see that park. And we're doing it. We're growing it. You've seen concerts this year. Who was here? Everclear, I believe, was here just a couple of months ago. So we're using the amenities that we've got here to continue to grow, to continue to offer the amenities that the folks here in Holly Springs want.
Mike, what specific steps would you take to evaluate the return on investment of Parks and Recreation spending? For example, measuring community usage, health benefits, or tourism impact?
Yeah, I would certainly agree. Measuring ROI based on tourism is the easy dollar and cents version. I think in terms of overall community health is extremely important. People being healthier, missing fewer days of work, being more productive, I think are important aspects of Parks and Rec as well.
Sean, rebuttal? Mike, rebuttal? Mike, describe your experience working with various stakeholders, which are businesses and community groups and residents, and what insight did you gain?
Sorry, could I repeat that, Tim?
Sure.
On the stakeholders part?
Describe your experience working with varied stakeholders, which are businesses, community groups, other residents, and what insights did you gain from working with them?
Yeah, look, I think the most important and relevant part of the feedback that I've gotten from engaging with stakeholders has been over the course of this campaign and being able to listen to people's concerns and their ideas for how to address them and their expectations for our leadership and how we're going to approach solving those problems here over the next 4 years. So
Sean? Describe your experience working with varied stakeholders such as businesses, community groups, and residents, and what insights did you gain?
Yep, a couple come to mind. First, when I mentioned I'm part of our Legislative Action Committee, we go up to D.C. every year. Many of you know, and many of you probably have the same issue that I've got with our post office. I reached out to Wiley Nickel. I said, Wiley, this post office is literally a postage stamp. It needs some assistance and we need some help. He sent his team down. We had a media day right out in front of the post office. I reached out to our representative, Julie Von Hafen, our Senator Lisa Grafstein, and our representative, Aaron Perret. I asked all of them to let's get together, talk about the same issue. We met at Panera, had a great conversation, understood Ms. Grafstein was actually on the ADA committee for the state. And we got together to talk about things that we could possibly do to either get a new one or a refurbished post office. I also mentioned I'm president of the Wake County Mayor's Association. I set up the meetings every month about where we're going to meet, the discussions we're going to have, and the agendas we're going to talk about. And I've already mentioned the Wake County Mayor's, Mayor's Quarterly Chats. Again, an opportunity for residents, if they so choose, to come in and hear from our own directors, as well as DOT who's come out.
Mike, rebuttal? Nope. Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir. Why are you laughing?
We'll begin with Sean. What is your opinion of the town of Holly Springs using condemnation on private property in order to force the vision the town has versus the vision of private developers and landowners?
Well, that is a means of last resort. Doesn't happen very often. The process goes if there's some part of a roadway that's needed, the town meets with the homeowner. An appraisal is done by a third party. The third party does the appraisal based off of a commercial appraisal, which is a higher rate for the property. There are times that the residents think that their property is worth more, or that piece of parcel is worth more than it is. Rightfully so, I'd be that way too. But in the end, if it's the betterment of the entirety of the town, tough decisions have to be made. Again, it's the betterment of the entire town. It doesn't happen often. I can think of only one time in the last 10 years that a condemnation had happened in our town. It's not the easiest thing to do, and I'd hate to be in our attorney's seats when he has to do those things.
Mike, what is your opinion of the town of Holly Springs using condemnation on private property in order to force the vision the town has versus the vision of private developers and landowners?
Yeah, I think this is an issue that we largely agree on. I think this decision needs to be a last resort decision. It is usually an expensive proposition in order to be fair to that particular landowner. So I would like for it to be used sparingly.
Rebuttal? Mike, rebuttal?
Good gracious, we might not be thanking the Government Relations Committee. How many questions you got in there?
Mike, what is your opinion of life science moving to Holly Springs?
Life science moving to Holly Springs is a tremendous development for this town. I think it is the fulfillment of several years. I think maybe even fair to say decades worth of work by the leaders of this town who established a vision that has now come to fruition and will be the economic engine for Holly Springs for years to come.
Sean? I'm sorry, I'll repeat the question. What is your opinion of life science moving to Holly Springs?
Some of you have heard the story, some of you may not, so I'll give it. It's about 25 years ago. Town wanted to know what to do with a bunch of dirt that was in the back, what they were calling the Holland Industrial Park. Brad Holland, who owned the Holland Grill, had a shop back there. He owned all that land. And there was a bunch of land behind that as well. The question was, what are we going to do? So they brought in a third party. Third party came in and told them, well, what's up and coming, now remember, this is 25 years ago, is life science. Nobody heard of life science. Everybody at that time said, let's do it. So they were all in, both feet, we're going to do life science. We had to learn what life science was. Nobody knew what the life science was. I give props to all the previous council members, all the previous folks that were here working on this project, because it was really easy to go after that low-hanging fruit. Oh, we can bring in this big warehouse in here, we can bring in some folks, bring in some employees, people moving in here, we'll get a little bit of tax revenue. They stuck the course. 2006 was the very first one. You guys know Novartis. Changed now to CSL Securus. Since that time, Fuji came in. Fuji's expanded. Amgen came in, and Amgen is now expanded. And a couple months ago, a month or two ago, we got Genentech came in. I told you at the beginning, we are the Apple of Wake County. We will be the lowest tax municipality because of these folks that are coming in, and I'm excited to see what these guys will do.
Mike, rebuttal?
Yep.
Sean, rebuttal? Sean, how do you plan on keeping up with the competitive job market in the public safety sector?
One more time. You're fine. You can leave it. I won't
No,
put it
no.
on there.
How do you plan? Oh, I thought. How do you plan on keeping up with the competitive job market in the public safety sector?
It's tough, right? In this market, in municipalities, they purge. They come after us. 2 years ago, we did a complete analysis of all our employees in all service sectors. We increased pay $2 million across all 350 or 375 at that time. It's a big chunk of change, but we had to do it to keep them. We just did a similar one 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. We had to do competitive analysis of all the employees that we've got and where they are. It's a tough market out there. It's no different than the private market. Your employee says, hey, I'm getting ready to leave. What are you leaving for? You try to keep them. It's the same thing here on the public side. We try to keep the good employees.
Mike, how do you plan on keeping up with the competitive job market in the public safety sector?
Yeah, so I think in this regard, we have all the towns in Wake County who are competing with one another and constantly trying to jump over based upon these assessments. And I know I know the town spends a lot of money every couple of years continually redoing the competitive assessments. I think one thing we need to look at for our public safety employees is the feasibility of going back to COLA adjustments, cost of living adjustment, pay raises for those folks in order to help ensure that the money that we invest in recruitment is well invested and we're able to keep more of our employees and with higher retention rates across all of our public safety service departments.
John? Mike, any rebuttal? Mike, do you think the Holly Springs government can better support the schools that are facing major shortfalls, and if so, how?
I'm sorry, is that question referring to shortfalls of budget of?
It doesn't say it. The exact words are, do you think the Holly Springs government can better support schools that are facing major shortfalls? If so, how?
Okay, so I'll superimpose the word shortfalls of budget of some kind into that. Look, I think the main role that we can play is as advocates for our families who are attending those schools with our members of the Wake County School Board. to be able to, I think, number one, better anticipate any issues like that come up, and to the degree that we can, avoid those challenges. But I think it's the expectation that we're maintaining good relationships and that we're aggressively advocating on our residents' behalf.
Sean, do you think the Holly Springs government can better support the schools that are facing major shortfalls, and if so, how?
Well, there's not a lot we actually can do or influence as far as municipality. Things we currently do right now are twofold, right? Our development services team, any new development that comes out, we're reaching out to Wake County school systems to tell them here's where we've got growth, here's what we've got coming. They take those numbers, put them into their system to see if we need any new schools. Those of you who've been paying attention, we've got Rex Elementary School that just opened up and Felton Grove just on the other side. Should be Holly Springs, but we'll give Mayor Gilbert another high school. We stay engaged with them that way. The other way we stay engaged with them is with our SRO program. We have one of the top SRO programs in the state. These officers are at the school. I see them direct to traffic all the time, but they're also inside that school, assisting them, getting to know the kids that are there. When you got kids that have a better relationship with our police department, you've got better kids and better representation of our police.
Mike, rebuttal?
Nope.
Sean?
No, sir.
Okay. Sean, what qualifications or experiences make you a strong fit for mayor?
Well, the past 4 years would be the first one, I'd say. Second one I would say is that as a 25 plus year business owner, small business owner in town, I've got to know many of you. As a former chair of the Chamber of Commerce, I've been engaged in my community. I meet with our businesses. Our kids are out of the house, so we probably frequent the restaurants a little bit more than we should. So I'm in front of the restaurants and getting to know some of those folks. Engage with the community. Between the mayor's workshop, I know old Mayor Sears used to say all the time, my door's always open. My door's always open, and I've met with many of you that are in here, some of you multiple times. So once you're engaged with your community, you meet with the folks that want to meet with you, I have an understanding of business, also have understanding with the relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, I think I'm more than qualified to be the mayor.
Mike, what qualifications or experiences make you a strong fit for mayor?
So let's start off with my wife Mandy and I. We've raised our family here. We've been Holly Springs residents for 12 years. I own my own business, so I've had to build that over the last 8 years. And as part of that business, I've spent the last 25 years around government, particularly state and federal government. My job has been to organize families and communities to advocate for more resources to help them live better lives. And in one sentence, I think that's what our municipal government ought to be doing. We ought to be investing resources to help people live better lives. And I've had to be a part of hundreds of conversations between legislators and advocates who want one thing, legislators who are willing to support another, and having to structure conversations to be able to bring those two groups together to create a solution that was the best thing for the organization that I was representing. And on top of all that, to me, it's the residents that I have met quite purposefully over these last 6 months and the thousands of conversations and all the relationships and the detailed understanding of all the issues and expectations that residents have of their leadership.
Mike, any rebuttal?
Yep.
Mike, what criteria do you think should guide Parks and Rec spending? Maintenance of existing facilities, new amenities, or expanding access to underserved neighborhoods?
Can you repeat the last three, the options there for me?
Yeah, give me just a second because it's the first time I've seen the question, and
Yeah.
I think my phrasing may
Yeah.
be important to it. Okay. What criteria do you think should guide park and recreation spending, maintenance of existing facilities, new amenities, and expanding access to underserved neighborhoods?
Sorry, what was the middle one?
Maintenance of existing facilities, new amenities, or expanding access to underserved neighborhoods?
Yeah, so it's difficult. That's a difficult question. All of those things are important. I think the just to hit on the question, the guiding or what I would call the most important factor in Parks and Rec should be expanding access to make sure that everybody is able to participate. To make sure, as I mentioned before, particularly with programs like our before and after school care, that those are appropriately priced based upon the economic challenges and the times in which we are living. So I would start there in terms of what would guide my Parks and Rec budget.
Okay. Sean, what criteria do you think should guide parks and rec spending, maintenance of existing facilities, new amenities, or expanding access to underserved neighborhoods?
So 3 years ago, I started an entrepreneurs club out at the high school. Done it in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce to provide these students, some 40 now that show up. What does the entrepreneurs club have anything to do with the parks and rec? One of the things that I've learned being out that high school, and I'm going to probably much surprise many of you here, there are an enormous number of children who go home that don't have access to Wi-Fi. They don't have a way to do much of the homework. Much of that stuff is done online now. Our new park right across the street at Eagles Landing is going to have Wi-Fi for these students to go there to do their homework with a coffee shop and an eatery, if so choose, to be able to complete that work. So to answer your question, one of the things that we're doing for the underserved is be able to provide them a means and a way that they can do their homework. And all they have to do is walk right across the street from the high school.
Mike, rebuttal?
Yeah, the only thing I would add there is too, I wanted to make sure that I think part of expanding access is to make sure that those underserved communities can get to the facilities. I mean, so I think continuing to expand our side paths, our greenways, making sure, and whether it's looking at public transit as we expand that, to make sure that those underserved communities have as many options as possible to be able to take advantage of the amenities that we're offering.
Oh, that's right. You went first. Um, wait a minute. I got lost again. Rebuttal? No, you're next on the question list. Sorry about that, y'all. Hey, there are only two more in here, just to let you know. I like this one. So I'm cheating. I hope you guys don't mind. Would you consider expanding the town limits into the ETJ to expand our tax base?
Me or Mike?
I think.
I had the Parks and Rec one, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's you.
Well, I mean, the town can't actually just walk up and say, hey, we want to move into ETJ and take it. What happens is that municipality or that group or that neighborhood, the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know why, is Avocet, right? They're out in the ETJ. It would be up to that community whether they wanted to be in and receive the services that we offer. Am I saying go out and take it? No, I don't think that's our plan to go out and take it. Should we look at additional land to the empty land? Could be an option. Should we increase the size of our business park if there's option to buy additional land? Absolutely. I think we should look at it. But as far as taking into the ETJ that's being lived in, that's a community, that's a residence, that's a neighborhood decision, not something the town should come back to.
Mike, would you consider expanding the town limits into the ETJ to expand our tax base?
Yeah, again, I think this is another issue that we're broadly in agreement on. I think as you look at the opportunities to do that, to be able to grow the economy, to bring in additional employers or expand, I think that makes sense. But again, doing it in I think as the mayor said, well, in a judicious way.
Sean, rebuttal? Mike, rebuttal? So, Mike, what do you see as the top 3 issues facing Holly Springs residents?
So I think the top 3 issues, I think, as we've discussed pretty thoroughly tonight, comes down to traffic and congestion, how we're going to manage to help our infrastructure catch up, to make Holly Springs roads safer. I think the second piece to that, obviously, then is how we manage development. I think those two things are inextricably linked. I think, again, residents' expectations, based on the thousands of conversations that I've had, is that the town is going to find a more judicious way to approach that process, with traffic reduction being their number one priority. I think the third thing, I think the third most important is water quality moving forward as we expand our water capabilities and we're getting more water from the Cape Fear, making sure that that water is being adequately filtered, particularly for PFAS, making sure that those results are being tested and all of the results of that testing are transparent. I think that's going to be an incredibly large challenge for us moving forward, again, particularly as federal and state regulation lags behind.
Sean, what do you see as the top 3 issues facing Holly Springs residents?
Well, we talked about traffic, right? So we know there's $236 million coming. We know the areas that are getting ready to be improved. My belief is that they're going to be somewhere in the 2030, 2032 before they're done, quite honest with you. Nothing moves fast in the government. I would say that downtown development, if you're out there any day during the week, you walk downtown, you see families walking with strollers, pushing them around, walking in and out of the restaurants, the pubs, hitting the ice cream shops. Wouldn't it be nice if the other side of the road started to get developed? There's discussion of maybe a potential boutique hotel coming down there. One of the things, if you've got kids that are getting ready to get married, you know that there's not a single place in town that you can have a reception or a rehearsal dinner. We lack that. Here recently, I want to tell you that we need to get back on top of the landfill. Many of you probably smelled it. I'm smelling it out where I live. They had a great handle on it, but it's come back to raise its ugly head. So I'd say that the landfill is another piece that we need to jump back on.
Mike, rebuttal? Sean, rebuttal?
No, sir.
Well, there was one question I skipped over just a minute ago. And so if we have time, we'll do it. Okay. And this will be, this is getting too hard for me. Okay. Sean. Public comment has recently been moved to the end of council meetings, which some residents feel discourages participation. Where do you stand on this change?
Well, actually, I'm the one that made the change. One of the things that I've seen that folks came to the public comment, they'd come in, they'd express their opinions, and this goes back even before I got on. They'd express their opinions or wanted maybe some type of answer. And it's not typical that council would have a discussion back with them. By moving it to the end, we had a big discussion, actually with that Mike was actually a part of, was a parking issue that the youth were doing in several of the neighborhoods. By moving it to the end, council actually got involved and had conversations, because public comment now is right before other business. Other business is the opportunity for our council to talk about whatever they want to say. Hey, I was at an event last night, or I saw this problem. Hey, town manager, would you take a peek at this? They can talk about whatever they want. So it's an opportunity now for those folks to explain and talk, as the example that was just given, about parking. We were able to solve that problem. Was it something that everybody was happy about? No, but we were engaging back and forth, having great dialogue on what we needed to do. And the change happened. The complaints went down, parking signs went up, and my understanding, the kids are no longer parking there. If you look at it from a time standpoint, I know that's one of the issues. Oh, it's 3, 4 hours. The average time from the beginning to the public comment now throughout the year is roughly an hour and 45 to an hour and 50 minutes. I don't think it's that long if you have something that important to talk about. There's ways to do it. You can do it by sending in emails, I want to do it. You can send it in by, hey, sign me up to do it. Or you can come in that evening to be there for the public comment.
Mike, public comment has recently been moved to the end of council meetings, which some residents feel discourages participation. Where do you stand on this change?
Again, the role of municipal government is to serve its citizens. Public comment needs to be as easy to participate in as possible to encourage engagement with municipal government. That public comment period ought to go back to the beginning of that meeting. To the mayor's comment about whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4. Yeah, I mean you do have people, whether it's older residents who can't sit that long, whether it's parents who have work the next day, whether it's parents who have to tend to their kids who have school the next day. There's a multitude of reasons, of very reasonable things that would prevent people from being able to sit through a lengthy meeting in order to provide public comment. I think which is why the vast majority of other municipal and local governments have their public comment period at the beginning of meetings. And on top of that, it's also the limitations of having a public comment period that allows people 3 minutes and you're allotted a total of 15 minutes. It's a town of 54,000 people. If you want to come and make a comment, the commitment on the behalf of the mayor and the council needs to be to listen to everyone who wants to come and speak, regardless of how long that takes.
Sean, rebuttal?
Yeah, I just reiterate that you have that option now. You can submit emails. You can sign up prior. The sheets are out at about 2:30 the day of council. Or you can send an email right to to our town clerk, and they read each of those things at every one of the meetings. So there are many ways that you can do it.
Mike, rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I will. Oh, that's right. I'm really out of it now. I'm one of those old people.
After 55 years, it might be,
Yeah. So we've come to the grand finale, where each of you gets 3 minutes to make your closing statements. Mike, I think we began with you.
Right.
And so we'll begin the closing statements tonight with Sean.
Look, Holly Springs has meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to my family. It's been a place where my kids have grown up, gone to school, a place where I've started several businesses. Any day of the week you go downtown, we talked about it. It's a family-friendly environment. The surveys we've done, 93% say it's a great place to live. 96% say it's a great place to raise a family. And I'm happy that I've been here and been a part of it. Past 4 years have been some of the most fun for me, some of the most challenging, and some of the most rewarding. I've learned a lot. Stuff I thought was easy to do, just like a business owner. You go in, you want something clean, you go get it done, you call the person to do it. It's not how it works in the public sector. You got paths to follow. Got my hand slapped a couple of times when we were trying to do stuff like that. My wish for you is that your children, they get to come back. They get to buy a house in Holly Springs. The amenities that we have would bring them back. We've got an election in this coming November. I humbly ask for your vote and look forward to seeing what the next 4 years of Holly Springs brings. Thank you all so much for coming tonight.
Mike?
Sure. Well, I'd like to start once again by thanking the chamber. Sean, again, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time. Again, thank you for everyone for making the time to come out and be with us here tonight. I'm going to end where I started, which is with those two questions. How can we grow in ways that prioritize the needs of residents? And how can we make sure that all of our residents and businesses benefit from that growth? Now, voters are going to start to go to the polls in just a couple of weeks and decide who they trust more to answer those two questions. And I've been running a campaign over the last 5 months to earn residents' trust by talking about the issues that are most important to them and for laying out my vision for Holly Springs. Because I want Holly Springs to be affordable for my family, for your families, for our kids, for our seniors, for our teachers, for our nurses, and for our first responders who work so hard to keep us safe. I want to be in Holly Springs where leaders invest the time to proactively go out and get residents' feedback, where residents can see that their feedback is valued, and more importantly, can see how that feedback feeds in to the policies that we create. Holly Springs small businesses should know that their municipal government is willing to push boundaries in order to ensure their profitability. And I also want every resident, native or newcomer, whether you live in Sunset Oaks or Stonemont, whether you live in Easton Acres or Honeycutt Farm, to know that their mayor is their champion. And finally, I want the town of Holly Springs, a town that is full of so many go-getters, innovators, hard workers, to elect leaders in their image, leaders who are willing to look at our most difficult problems of traffic and congestion. And rather than saying we can't do this, have the courage to ask how we can do this together. My name is Mike Kondratik, and as I always say, I'm here to earn your vote for Mayor of Holly Springs. Thank you very much for your time.
On behalf of the Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce, I want to extend our appreciation to both mayoral candidates for your participation and thoughtful responses. We encourage everyone to visit the 2025 Voters Guide, where you can connect directly with the candidates and learn more about their platforms. The guide is available via the QR code on the handout. A special thank you to Tim Congleton, who we kept very busy this evening, for moderating tonight's forum with fairness and professionalism, and to the Holly Springs Police Department for their continued support and presence. We also want to thank our engaged residents for submitting so many insightful questions and for being active participants in our local elections. These elections have direct and immediate impacts on our daily lives, and your involvement truly matters. To our Government Relations Committee, thank you for your hard work behind the scenes to make this event possible. As we look ahead, please mark your calendars for November 4th, 2025, and make a plan to vote. Check your polling location in advance to avoid any surprises on Election Day, because your vote does matter. And finally, please continue to support the local businesses. They are the heartbeat of Holly Springs, and together we can all ensure that our town remains a great place to live, work, play, and do business. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful and safe evening.